We have today we have covered a little bit about translation shifts with regards to the what Catford has actually proposed, and of course it's actually related to linguistic approaches to translation, and not culture and translation, as I said earlier in the previous video about translation shifts. I was going to add just something extra to summarize what translation shifts are, and I just mentioned that the shifts are actually related to the formal equivalence and how it's being transferred from one language because it's not corresponding to the target language, the formal equivalence. And of course, what is meant by formal equivalence is not only the form of the language, but the form and content of the language that's being transferred. So formal does not mean just only the form, the actual various features of the language, but also the meaning itself, in the content itself of that particular source text. Now, with regards to the shifts, why do we move to shifts? Why do we use shifts? It's only because it's impossible to find a corresponding tense and aspect, or noun, or a verb, or an adjective. And if you don't find their corresponding equivalent in the TL, then you have to use some translation shifts. And translation shifts, according to Catford, 1965, is that the translation shift is divided into two types, mainly level shifts and category shifts, and I have covered them in the previous video. However, one more thing I wanted to add under the category shifts, because under the category shifts there is the structure shift, class shift, unit shift, rank shift, and these are when you are moving from, let's say, in class shift between noun and verb and adjective and so on, and adverb, from one language to another. Also in the structure itself, if it's changing a little bit because of the intrasystem shift, which is the shift which happens because of the system of the target language being different from the source language. So these shifts are not only at the level of unit shift meaning one unit with one unit. Some scholars call them one-to-one correspondence, or one-to-one equivalence, or one-to-many, or one-to-part of, or part of to whole, and so on. There's so many types of correspondences which needs to be looked at, and that these are related to unit shifts. So in these ones, when they are being shifted from one unit to more than one unit, but sometimes also from one unit to none, sometimes they are deleted completely because there's no equivalent to them at all. And that's another element where you have translation gloss, where you add a footnote or you add some explanation as to the actual omission that's happened due to non-equivalence in the target text. So one to none as well. Now, with regards to shifts, again, going back to shifts, we have also the unit shift, structure shift, class shift. There is the element in the intrasystem shifts, i.e. within the language itself, system, whether it's the source text language or the target text language. There is the element of using indefinite article, or partitive articles. And that is what I haven't covered in the previous video, so I thought I'd better actually cover it before I actually conclude this episode about translation shifts according to Catford 1965. In this one I was going to say about the intrasystem shifts that occur along with other units and structure and other class shifts is another element which I would like to give about the indefinite and definite and partitive and articles, partitive articles. Now in English, for example, you say a and an to a noun, whereas in French you say un and une, and in Arabic you don't use any article for the indefinite. In French or in English you use the, and in French you use le and la, and you use also les and le, where in Arabic as well you use al, solar or lunar, ابغي حجك وخف عقيمة for the lunar ones. In other words, al-haja, al-jahim, you use al for the lunar, from the word which is combined, ابغي حجك وخف عقيمة, which is how to know the rule for solar definite article in Arabic and for the lunar definite article in Arabic, as opposed to the English one, which is the. Now the final point is about the partitive articles. In English you have some and any, and if you want to look at the French, du and de and la and de and de. All of these are actually used in French, but in English they are used only some and any. That's all, the only two elements which are used in the English. Now in the Arabic there is of course ba'da, which means some, and bid'a and bid'ata, depending on bid'a is for the female and bid'ata for the male. Bid'ata kutub and bid'a bid'ata aqlam, because that's aqlam is masculine, so you use bid'ata, which is the opposite. So masculine takes feminine, feminine takes masculine. Bid'a is for the feminine, and bid'ata for the masculine nouns in plural. And there's ayya and ayyata as well, which are also being used in Arabic but not in English. In other words, in English you have some and any, only two, but in Arabic you got five. And in French you have de and de and la and del and de, which are also used in the French but not in the English version of them. And that concludes my discussion or my talk about the shifts, which requires you to be aware of, so you can actually avoid them in your own translation at a later stage when you are translating. I hope that you have benefited from today's about shifts. I've already uploaded the first video and this is the second one. Thank you.